Yeah, that was an amazing show. Probably a bucket list show because I've looked up to Pepper Keenan, the front man for COC for the longest time, and just to kind of like play a show with them for one thing, but like during sound check, it was hilarious. Here I am, I'm like, here's Pepper Keenan standing, 5-6 feet in front of me, and I can't even bring myself to say anything because I'm like so starstruck, and I'm looking like an idiot, and he's looking at me like, dude, are you gonna say anything? So, you kind of miss your opportunity there. I've only been starstruck a couple of times. I've met a few people, and there's only been a couple times, him and Pauly Shore, I would say. So.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the All Music Matters in That podcast. I'm your host, Brett, and today we'll go special guest from somewhere on the East Coast. We got Don Potter. How you doing today, brother?
What's going on?
Not much. Definitely got my exercise in for today, doing a little mowing the lawn and all that stuff, and then a little drumming before we hopped on here. So
there you go.
There's my exercise for today, to say the least. So
definitely exercise as hot as over there as it is over here.
Well, it depends where you are, to be honest. I guess which part of the West Coast or East Coast are you
on? It's in Ohio. Not too. I mean, it's more Midwest than it is East Coast, though. So, but yeah, it's definitely hot here. It almost got to 90 by 87.
Yeah, I know that feeling. Especially, you add humidity onto it too, and it's like, oh my god, it's hotter than the gates of hell at this point.
Right. Yes, that's the way it's been the last few weeks. I mean, we had a little bit of a break, but last week was really brutal.
So did you get rained on during July 4th? We actually got a little rain during our July 4th celebration.
Well, you guys got lucky.
Oh, really? All right. But I guess outside of that, what you been up to recently?
Oh, I mean, just trying to keep my ducks in a row with everything. I've been working on actually, been doing a lot of polycrisis stuff, or we've been working on some recordings. We've been trying to shoot a video for a single, but things keep getting on our way, so we had to delay that a couple times. And then I also working on the Destrucore album. So, got a lot of things in the works for this summer, end of the year, stuff like that. Some shows coming up in July at the end.
Close to end of July. So,
yeah.
All right. To fill in the audience here too, actually, Mr. Don Potter over here is actually part of 3 groups, actually, which is we mentioned earlier with Polycrisis, Destrucore, and Potter's Field. So,
yes.
Were these all 3 of these bands? Were these like all your ideas, and you just got some people to fill in the spots?
No, I mean all of them have different origins. The earliest being Destrucore. I'm a little long in the tooth. I've been at it for years, and me and my cousin Dan, we started Destrucore back in '98, I think it was. Yes, a long time ago. And we, we were just 4 young guys. We were brothers, still are brothers, except for one of us. He passed away. But that's where I got my start. And that is definitely, like the earliest project that I've ever done. And, me and my cousin, we like to keep it going because our brother and our guitar player, Sean Heimer, he passed away back during COVID, actually, but it wasn't from COVID. So, ironically, but we vowed to, we had an album written, and we were vowed we were going to get this thing out and make sure that his last recordings were heard. Not that, just family and friends will care, but it's something that we needed to do for ourselves, to pay tribute to our fallen brother. So we got that. That's what we've been working on. The album Beneath the Shadows. It's 8 songs, and that's coming out here soon. So, but my main project now is Polycrisis, and we're a 3-piece out of Northwest Ohio here, and it's my friend Luke Schaefer. He's playing bass, and then Brad Anderson playing drums, and we play all kinds of shows around here. Fort Wayne area, actually, we venture into Fort Wayne, Indiana. We played at the Pierre's with Corrosion of Conformity. I don't know if you know who that is. That was a fun show. We go up to some Cleveland shows, some Dayton, and then around here too. So, we're kind of all over the place, just trying to play the shows that people let us come to and plug in at.
I know of Corrosion of Conformity, but I heard like a couple songs from them. So
yeah,
that's actually nonetheless, that's a killer job there, mate. Good job.
Yeah, that was an amazing show. Probably a bucket list show, because I've looked up to Pepper Keenan, the front man for COC, for the longest time. And, just to kind of like play a show with them for one thing, but like during sound check, it was hilarious. Here I am, I'm like, here's Pepper Keenan standing, 5-6 feet in front of me. And, I can't even bring myself to say anything, because I'm like so starstruck, and I'm looking like an idiot, and he's looking at me like, dude, are you going to say anything? So, you kind of miss your opportunity there. I've only been starstruck a couple of times. I've met a few people, and there's only been a couple times, him and Pauly Shore, I would say. So
I thought Pepper Keenan was always part of Down for a good while, I guess. Has he always been in Corrosion of Conformity, or is this more recent when they brought him in?
Yes, he's always, actually, yes and no. He's been with Corrosion for a long time, but I don't think he started out with them. He kind of joined, but it was a long time ago. Down's actually a super group, so he joined Down, and he was always been a part of that too. So with Kirk Weinstedt from Crowbar, Jimmy Bauer from I Hate God, and of course Pepper, COC on the other guitar, and then Phil from Pantera singing. So that's definitely. I mean, monstrous group. I got tickets to see them in September down in Cincinnati, so can't wait.
Yeah, I got my tickets. I'm from Pittsburgh, actually. They're coming to Pittsburgh in August, so I'm so excited. I think from what I saw at some of the set lists, it looks like they are covering a good amount of their NOLA album, the debut album they put together. So
yes, definitely. I'm a big fan of that album. That's a classic, obviously. I think that like even a lot of publications will have that as like a top super group album of all time, and it deserves to be. It's got so many bangers on it. But I also love the next one, Bustle in Your Hedgerow, Down 2. It has like Ghost of Mississippi on it, and a lot of good songs on that. I don't think it's as good as NOLA from first track to last, but it definitely has some stuff that in there along the way that I think stands up and is really good. Where I'm Going, that's haunting classic, man. That's a good one. So off that album as well.
I guess speaking of which, I guess as Down, maybe a little bit of Pantera, and maybe some of the older groups, they kind of influence your play style with guitar, and I guess even the sound for all your bands you're a part of.
So yeah, I mean, yes, and in a nutshell, yes, but it's a little more complicated than that, I guess, because I've always, since I started from Destrucore and doing Potter's Field, and even a band you might want to go check out. I did one EP with Sorrow's Song, who bass player for Sorrow's Song is also playing bass for me on Polycrisis, Luke Schaefer, amazing bass player. But I've always been a vocalist first. Always stood up there with a mic in my hand, wrote the lyrics, wrote the lyrical melodies, or however you want to say, but, it wasn't until Polycrisis that I started picking up the guitar full time back in 2020. That's when I started doing it because, I know one of your questions is about COVID, and that has a lot to do with my, kind of my metamorphosis from just a vocalist to, doing both. But yeah, that's definitely something that came upon later, so.
That's our blessing in disguise, yeah.
Yeah, filling in Samo is definitely like the reason why I picked up a microphone. From Pantera and down, Super Joint Ritual. He's always got his hands in something, right? But as far as overall musicianship, my main man, my dude the reason why I'm in music is Jerry Cantrell from Alice in Chains. He is, to me, the GOAT. He does it all. He sings. He plays. He's one of the greatest songwriters of all time. I love vocal harmonies, and that's because of Alice in Chains. Alice in Chains is my favorite band of all time. So that's definitely my biggest influence as far as like guitar and singing at the same time. But throw Pepper in there too, and also Max Cavalera from Soulfly and Sepultura is in there. So when you talk about picking up a guitar and screaming or singing or whatever it is you want to do, those three guys probably come to mind first.
That's my quiet list right there. And I should first start with more so the backstory. So obviously you mentioned about how Phil Anselmo, Max Cavalera, and everyone else kind of influenced you. Was it kind of your parents that kind of helped you when you were just a wee lad? And I guess, did you take like chorus in school or something to help with the vocal range?
No, I didn't do anything. I just wanted to sing, and I just kind of taught myself and learned singing in different little projects at first, pretending as a kid. Sorry, I got some dogs opening their mouth. But I had Uncle Kevin, who was a major influence in my life as far as, my musical taste. He was listening to a lot more of the underground stuff coming up, the 80s and 90s that I got into, stuff that, that the average, 80s hair metal, because, when I started getting into music, I was younger. A lot of kids were out playing with their Tonka trucks. I was sitting in front of MTV watching the countdown, That's just who I was, So, I was watching my uncles and my cousins, and I had one cousin listening to Kiss all the time. So there was even a Kiss influence in there. So not so much like anything they did, but just kind of like, they were larger than life. And that's, something I wanted growing up, being a rock star and all that stuff. Not something I dream of now anymore. It's just more about the music now than anything. But Kiss and Guns N' Roses was another one coming up. My Uncle Kevin, he listened to stuff like really rare, like Grim Reaper and Halloween and Dokken and, like stuff that you really didn't see, like the Poisons and the Motley Crues and all that stuff back then. And then I kind of got older, and 90s really was a main, with Pantera coming up, and obviously the grunge scene. 9 Inch Nails was a big one. I really dug 9 Inch Nails. There's one of my favorite, probably one of my top 10. So a lot of bands, too many to name. Soulfly, Sepultura's Chaos AD is unreal. One of the best metal albums ever. So just to kind of touch on that a little bit.
Debatable, but it's still a great album nonetheless. I guess you never really got too far. Maybe I know Sepultura, but I don't know if they count that as thrash metal or whether that's extreme metal. Did you ever get into death metal or any of the heavier genres of metal?
No, but like lately, like I'm riding around listening to liquid metal on Sirius, and the really heavy stuff is not bothering me at all. It's like actually kind of, and it's more the I don't know, like the black metal almost. My cousin started listening to Cradle of Filth and all that stuff. He's industrial core. We went and seen Cradle of Filth and Kill Switch Engage at Bogart's one time, and that was an awesome show, I tell you. But when Cradle went on, man, I thought vampires were going to drop from the ceiling. I don't know. But no, I watched that movie, Lords of Chaos, about Mayhem, the original Norwegian black metal band, and all, the churches they were burning down and their members stabbing each other 21 times or something like that. I don't know. That was some crazy stuff, but like some of that stuff, really starting to develop a taste for, and I go back and listen to. So like some of that old Mayhem and some of the black metal, the theatrical stuff with the keyboards and everybody thinks they're vampires type deal.
Actually, I thought Mayhem was the crazy ones, to be honest. So, but maybe more so. It's crazy history too when you think about some of the black metal stuff that did come out of the Scandinavian region there too. So I think that's why they get ticked off when other bands in other parts of the world are calling themselves black metal, but they're not the true black metal, the North or something like that.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And like when I first started hearing about that stuff, hearing about how like Cradle Filth, and I don't know how you say the other name, Demir Bajur or something like that. Do you know how to say that name? But you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah. That's the one with the whole orchestra sort of group right there. Yeah, too. Jimmy Borgir, I think that's how you pronounce it. So like, a lot of, black metal purists will rag on those two bands, kind of like those are the Nickelback of the black metal genre. So but that's what I got introduced to it with, so and I thought it was cool. I like the theatrical side of it. Because they introduced you to the dark side, if we want to say it that way, if we're going to Star Wars reference.
Oh yeah. I love Star Wars.
That's all cool. But since you did touch on COVID earlier, I guess first off, how bad was it going for you on a personal and family level?
I mean, it wasn't too bad. My uncle Mike Barr died from COVID, but it was like a couple years after the big 2020 thing. So it was like he just got it later, and he couldn't deal with it. He was just too old, I guess, and couldn't breathe and all that stuff. But other than that, it was just like, honestly, just like a huge vacation from work, and everybody was quarantining, but we were all going out to the parks and stuff, social distancing, but getting some sunshine still. And the government was paying you good. Sorry, I got a cat here. The government was paying you good, so it was like you didn't have to worry about anything. It was like the best vacation ever, almost. Spend time at home with your animals. I'm a big pet person, love dogs and cats, so
tell.
Yeah, but that's kind of like when I just decided I was so bored. I was like, my best friend passed away from liver failure, and he was my guitar player, and guitar players were just so hard to find, because everybody wants to do their own thing. Nobody wants to come in and learn so many songs and all that stuff. They're like, well, why don't we just start from scratch and we'll do my stuff, and it's like, that's cool. I want to do that, but we got to do these songs too, so it just got a little frustrating. So, eventually it was just like, man, I'll just do it myself, So I just started really picking it up and playing, and I didn't really start trying to learn other people's songs. I just went into trying to write my own stuff. And I was like, I'll get better as I go. I know it will, because I've been doing music for, 20 years. I know how to write songs and things like that. So, just kind of acclimating myself to doing it with a guitar. I didn't think it would be that big of a deal. I think that the hardest thing was the singing and playing at the same time. That's just that I am horrible at multitasking, and that is something that I'm still struggling with to this day. So, but I'm getting better at it.
I was going to ask, do you kind of just hold the microphone whenever you are singing and then just kind of throw in some chords that are probably a little easier? Is that how you do it? So you could try to multitask, or
Some of
work in
the
progress?
some of the songs, yeah. I mean, if you went and listened to any of the stuff, there's a couple songs like, I'll just hold some chords out and sing over them. But, I want to grow as a guitar player, and I try to come up with more trickier stuff to sing over and things like that. And you can tell, we have 2 EPs out. One's called One Love and the other one's called Nobody Dooms Like We Do. And I mean, even though it's not, the greatest guitar playing ever on there, I would say that you can see the improvement from that album to the next, so as long as that's what's happening, I'm, as long as I'm getting better, that's all I care about. Singing's the easy part. I've been doing that for years and years and years, so that's all and then I get imposter syndrome really bad when I go play shows, because I watch all these like phenomenal guitar players play, and I'm like, I got to go up there and play my bullshit. So sometimes especially when you play it, when you follow somebody that's just like extraordinary good, because there's a lot of amazing guitar players out there. Even in this area, there's just tons of, amazing 6-string masters out there. And then I'm just a guy that's just trying to make, some noise that's in key so I can scream or sing over it.
Hey, if it works, it works. So if people dig it, that's all that matters at the end of the day. So.
Yeah, some people dig it, and for me, as long as my bandmates dig it and want to keep, making music with me, that's the main thing for me. So, I mean, to me, it's just as fun to just, be with my bandmates in my jam room, just because that's where it sounds the best anyways. You got it dialed in perfectly, and from one show to the next, you never know what your sound's going to be on stage. So, but sometimes it's better to just be with those guys and just have a rockin' practice. Sometimes it's just as fun as being in front of 50, 60 people. So
That's for sure. And on a serious note, sorry for any losses you encountered along the way because of COVID, or I guess what happened during COVID there too. So sorry, mate. So.
Oh no, I appreciate it. My best friend Sean, he was a drinker, so it was going to get him sooner or later, and it just got him sooner. So yeah, it's a shame. I know that he would be in polycrisis right now if he were still alive. No doubt in my mind. So, but I also know he's pissed at me right now wherever he's at. I'm assuming he's up, somewhere, looking down at me. So I think he would be pissed at me right now because he begged me to play guitar all those years, and I was like, "Nah, I'm good singing. You play guitar." And as soon as he goes, I pick the guitar up and start playing it. So he'd probably be pretty mad at me right now.
Oh, I think when you meet him in the afterlife, I think he'll hit you pretty good. So we'll see what happens. So, nonetheless, may he rest in peace.
Oh, right. Definitely. Rest in power.
Rest in power too. That's a new term they actually started bringing up. I didn't actually notice it till like the last year or so when they started saying rest in power and all that stuff. So I think it's clever. So it was definitely a blessing in disguise, pick up the guitar and everything there too. But go back to 1998 when I guess you just started to form District Corps and all that stuff. I guess how tough was it at the beginning, just being the front man? I guess were you pretty nervous in the beginning, and then it started coming naturally with experience?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. It was difficult, just learning to be in a band, and because I had never been in a band before, and learning to write music, learning to your identity as a musician. That's the biggest thing first. Starting out. You don't know. Do you want to be rock? Do you want to be because you like everything. I was brought up with everything, so even listening to Stevie Nicks and Journey with my parents, the lighter stuff. I always liked the metal. I always leaned towards the heavier side, but I didn't know I was going to lean towards the even more heavier side until I got into District Corps. And there was definitely some things, like we were playing some covers, Godsmack, stuff like that. We knew we wanted to be hard rock heavy, but we just wasn't sure who we were, and we were playing this bar in Springfield called Area 51, and we were playing with a band called Grit. And at the time we had heard about them, and they were like pretty, scene famous, not, just in the local Dayton, scene. Yeah, they were pretty popular, and we were trying to see what all the fuss was about. And until then, we just seen like bar bands walk up on stage, grab their instruments, start Mustang Sally, start doing their thing, and that's what we knew a band to be, And then we're sitting in this bar getting Grit goes on, and the lights just go black in the bar, and then like you see the smoke, and all of a sudden like this intro rattling over the PA, they made their own intro, to kind of introduce themselves, and it was cool and, trendy and all that stuff. And then all of a sudden the lights just popped on, and then they just like shot out of a cannon, so much energy, and it was all originals. It wasn't, I don't think we played another cover after that night, dude. We dropped all our covers and just started focusing on originals, and we was like, that's what we want to be right there, So they were heavy, but they were really kind of riding that rap metal scene that was real popular in the early 2000s, because that's when this was kind of like, I know 98 is when I said we were formed it, but right when we started to hit our stride and get into the scene was around the early 2000s. And that's when like new metal was hitting real big and all that stuff. So, yeah. So, we were kind of a part of that, so it was fun. But we were kind of more in the vein of Sabbath and Pantera, though. We kind of had a little bit of new metal to us, but we had too many classic influences, and we just kind of were like in the scene. We almost didn't fit. But because we were young and fresh, we did fit. That's the only reason. We weren't rapping and stuff like that. Everybody was rapping and then, screaming in the choruses and stuff like that. It was definitely new metal all the way. And then here we come, our bass player's influenced by Iron Maiden. I'm influenced by Alice in Chains and Pantera and Sabbath, and guitar player Sabbath, Metallica on the drums. And we weren't new metal, but we were kind of in that scene. So
I was actually going to ask about that too, because that's the way I think Slipknot was like 99 when they first came out. And then Mudvayne was 2001 when they did LD50, that sort of stuff. So
yeah.
I think if you wanted to be that sort of new metal at the time, I think you had to kind of be hating on your parents or something like that there too, because it seemed like there was a lot of anger that was kind of going on in the lyrics. So I think that's one way you could have probably fit into being in the new metal scene, was being pissed off about something.
Yeah, Korn was in there, and Disturbed. I was a Disturbed guy, I think. I really liked that first Disturbed album, The Sickness. I thought it was amazing. I rode around delivering pizzas for Papa John's, just constantly playing that thing. And you can hear some stuff. The second Destrucore EP, Enter the Core. There's a song on there called Confess, and there's some Disturbed vocal influence in that a little bit. But other than that, I was more Alice in Chains. I was trying to do that almost that Seattle's 90s vocal with the screaming stuff, at first when I first started. But the more I started hanging out in the scene and being with screamers, the more I wanted to scream, so we started getting more into the groove metal side. I would say that the Destrucore album, Bioterra, which was the last album, 2004, I think, was the last album we made before we broke up. I mean, we ended up getting back together again in 2012, but that was that was years later and more of a nostalgia thing. I'm talking about the original run. So, 2004, and that album, that album is really crisp and probably the best studio Destrucore album of the four I think we released through 2012. And I can't include the new one that we're going to be putting out this year, me and my cousin, because it's not out yet. But no, it's good. We recorded that here in my studio, and there's not a drummer on it. We use the KVLT drum software, and then my cousin Dan programmed the drum beats, but he pretty much programmed it. It's almost like a hybrid between two different drummers that we have playing for us through the years. It's like we took stuff, and he's like, well, I like what Curtis did, but I like what Ryan did here, and it's almost like a melting pot of their beats. Sometimes it don't even make sense. But my cousin Dan, who is basically the mastermind behind all the drum beats, he's borderline genius. So he knows that stuff. He knows math. He's a computer engineer, and when it comes to programming drums, it was nothing to him. But he plays bass obviously on it, and I'm doing vocals, and we ended up getting a buddy of mine, Colt Burnett, to play guitar on it, and he learned all of Sean's stuff for the album and recorded it, and we're really proud of it, man. We can't wait for everybody to hear it. I shouldn't be talking about them so much, though, man. I know you're asking about them. I should be talking about Polycrisis more. But
no, that was good, because it seemed like Destrucore was probably the first one, and then
yes, definitely in the order. Yeah.
I guess I don't know if you gave any history of Polycrisis and even Potter's Field, but go ahead, elaborate a little bit more about those two other groups. Yeah,
definitely. I love talking about Destrucore. No problem. That's like talking about family, so I'll never say it's over, because me and Dan, as long as me and Dan are alive making music, you never know. So hopefully everybody will like this new one we're coming out with, and it'll be the fifth one, maybe the final one. So
all right, actually, Polycrisis and Potter's Field, I guess, did they kind of come in at some point while you were in Destrucore? Or I don't really know too much about the history of those groups right there. So
Destrucore was the Dayton area, because that's where originally I'm from, Dayton, Ohio. My cat, he likes to play when he shouldn't be behind me. But anyway, yeah, that was from Dayton. And then as soon as Destrucore ended in 2004, my parents had kind of migrated north to the St. Mary's, Grand Lake, St. Mary's area in Ohio. And I was like, my band's done. Dimebag Daryl just got murdered. And, I tucked my tail and I went home, went to my parents' house. But this ended up becoming my home, forever. I moved up here and I kind of got my shit together. And once I started getting ready to, do music again, it was kind of hard rounding guys up and stuff. So I was just like, I want to, I knew some guys in Kenton that had a recording studio, and I was like, let's do a solo album, And my friend Jared Collins, I don't know if you ever heard of Mississippi Bones. No, they're from Canton, Ohio. They're a really great stoner band. Extremely awesome. You should check them out. Yeah, Mississippi Bones. But the front man of Mississippi Bones, Jared Collins, I used to, back when I was in Destra Corps, we used to play with his band. They were called Enemy of Mine at that time. And they were like big time metal band. We kind of crossed paths with them at a Battle of the Bands in Bell Fountain at the Blue Cat. And we became like best friends with these guys. Like we would go to Kenton and play shows with them. They'd come to Dayton and play shows with Destra Corps. And we were just kind of like, and through them, we ended up meeting another great metal band called Deflagration from Findlay. And it was like our new family, man. And we were doing stuff like in the Pantera home videos, we'd get together after shows and we'd be partying and then like, putting money down, eat this, you got to eat that, like you'd see in the Pantera home videos, I guess we were just kids trying to be like our heroes, man. But it was a great time, and we became great friends. And I tell you, my cousin Dan, the bass player for Destra Corps, yeah, I say he's borderline genius. But when I talk about Jared Collins, this man is a genius. He's the best musician I've ever encountered. Guitar player, he can play. He's multi-instrumented. He's a singer of Mississippi Bones. But when we did my first Potter's Field album, I went to him and he programmed all the drums. He played all the bass on this thing. He played all the guitars on this thing. The only thing I did was write the words and sing it. And that's the first Potter Field album. And that was fun. Don't get me wrong. I wanted to take it up a notch, so I did another one a few years later. This was after my mom passed away in 2014. So this I wrote a song about her and did a video for that on this album, but getting ahead of myself there. But I did another Potter's Field album, and this time I hired all the musicians. All the guys playing on the Destra Corps CD, Colt Burnett, I hired him to play guitar and help me write it. I got my cousin Dan. So basically the Destra Corps lineup that's coming. And then I ended up hiring a session drummer from Dayton, Brian Harris. This guy was so amazing. By far the most skilled drummer I've ever encountered, because he played everything. For one thing, me and Colt wrote the songs on my recording program to a click. We didn't have no drums. We just, played to a click track. I got the vocals down. We got all the songs arranged the way we wanted them. And then we sent these waves to Brian down in Dayton. He didn't even come up. We didn't even get together with him. He sends them back with beats to him. I'm like, that's amazing. How did basically he just played to a click through the whole thing and nailed it. I don't know if you know, you said you play drums, right?
I am a drummer, yes.
Yes. So to me, playing to a click and being a drummer is got to be one of the hardest things a drummer can do, in my opinion. It might be easy for you, but most drummers I know can, like, if they can even play to a click, it's for like 30, 40 seconds and then they lose it. This guy can play to a click completely through the song. And like when we went into rephrase and Kettering to record the thing for real, he recorded his drums to a click so perfectly that he was punching in and out in songs. You ever heard about drummers punching in and out of songs in the studio? That's unheard of, right?
I thought normally it was like if they screwed up at a part, it was like, cut, we'll do that part again, and then maybe come back to it, or that'll do.
Not let's listen to it. I don't like that little part right there. Let me go in there and get that again. And it's in perfect time, and not, about perfect, but close to it, that was just an amazing thing. But I tell you what, he was such a perfectionist. He ended up burning a hole through my pocket. I was self-budgeting this album by myself, and I'm like coming home at night going to my wife, he went like 4 hours over. I don't know how I'm going to pay for this, you know? So we ended up getting it figured out, and it turned out pretty good. It was the second Potter's Field, and it was just basically me not being able to hold still. I needed to do something not when I didn't have a band, you know? And then I started talking to Luke and stuff about getting together. He had a long layoff, and we was running into each other in department stores like, oh man, we need to get together and do something, you know? Because I did that Sorrow Song album with him and Colt. And that's where that took off. And then, you know, we started writing songs. I had the songs that I wrote from 2020. Remember, I told you that I just started playing guitar and I just started writing songs. I wrote like 5 songs at that time. And I was building this jam room / studio out here in my garage. And me and him were kind of just like working out the details of these songs. And we were going to call that Potter's Field. That was going to be a Potter's Field album. But then we brought in a drummer, and I was thinking to myself, you know, that's stupid. We shouldn't call this Potter's Field. You know, that's a solo thing, you know, and this is not a solo project. This is a band. So we started to search for names. We thought like 200 names, I think, probably. Narrowed it down to 4. Polycrisis one. We like that one because it means, you know, multiple crises going on and around the world at one time, you know, and obviously that's the state of our world right now. So I figured, you know, that's a name everybody could relate to. So plus it's kind of cool. The only thing about that name is maybe it makes us sound heavier than we really are, the name. So that would be my only gripe about it. Cause you know, we can get heavy. We got a lot of different influences in us, you know, but we're not like death metal heavy. So, you know, and when I hear the word polycrisis, I almost feel like that it should be the death metal type sound. Exactly. But it's not, you know. But, you know, hey, that's what I have something in common with Corrosion of Conformity, right? Because that name sounds like it should be heavier than they really are, too. So maybe that's why everybody calls them COC, because if you call them Corrosion of Conformity, you're like, what do they sound like? You know, 6 feet under?
Not that heavy. But I would say you still throw it in metal. So, I mean, like, it's still metal, baby. That's what I say.
Exactly. I like to say, you know, putting labels on anything. Everybody does it. So it's kind of like, you know, when you're putting your press kit and all that stuff together to get shows, you kind of have to put a label on yourself. And I started calling us stoner grunge. So I don't know if that's, yeah.
I can work. We can make it work. So
yeah, definitely.
All right. That's pretty interesting. But I guess gear-wise, have you kind of stuck with the same gear throughout your long tenure? I know microphone is probably the only thing you really needed back then, but what kind of guitar do you have? And I guess what do you use gear-wise?
I've always used a Shure wireless. Even now I use it. I bought a Shure wireless SM58 years ago, and I used it for years. And I loved, you know, just having the wireless mic, being able to move freely. And then when I started playing guitar, I bought another one already, you know, and I was like, well, I'm not going to not use this mic. So it's just sitting in my mic stand, even though it's wireless, but that's the mic I use, Shure SM58 wireless. As far as guitar, I play a Epiphone SG, but it's highly modified. I've put a Seymour Duncan Invader in it. I've changed almost all the hardware in it. All the tuners was because I was playing a show one night and I came home and one of my tuners was knocked off, and I was like, oh my gosh. So I took it to the parts store, and it was like, well, we can't just place that one tuner. We'll have to order a whole set, you know. But it's better. I like it. They're all chrome now, and, you know, they're a lot better. But yeah, it's almost got all new hardware in it, and it's my baby. I call it Jade Jade Fire, which is actually a Mississippi Bone song. I use a orange Super Crush 100 as my head, and I run it through a Line 6 Spider 412 cab. I would like to get an orange cab to go with my Super Crush eventually, but they're very pricey. So I use what I have, and it sounds great. I use I switch, man. I'm through so many distortion pedals. I'm always trying different stuff out. I like the Rat. It's a pretty universally loved distortion pedal. It goes way back. The Proco Rat. I actually think Jerry Cantrell used it when he first started out. Like Man in the Box days and stuff. He uses a lot of different stuff now. But I just like it because, you can get that tight distortion with it. And if you really want to, you can go super fuzz with it too, But I'm trying to find the perfect fuzz. I like that fuzz sound. Like, you ever heard of Wofat?
That sounds familiar, but elaborate, I guess. What's it about?
Wofat, they're a band from Texas. They're a stoner metal band. They're pretty awesome, man. I really love their sound. If you ever go listen to them, their guitar sound is probably, to me, perfect as far as like the fuzz I would like to have on my guitar, but yet still have that high end to be able to, because I want to do, every once in a while I want to pop out a pinch harmonic or something, And when you're playing on all these low end fuzz pedals and stuff, it's like you can't get that pinch harmonic in there. You need something with a little more high end, a little more output. So everything's so bassy when it comes to fuzz pedals. So I got a Hendrix fuzz pedal, super fuzz, that sometimes I mess around with, but I don't mess around with a lot. But it's so awesome looking. I just love it on my pedal board. I use a wah. I was using a Cantrell Signature Series Crybaby, but I switched to one of those ones that you don't have to activate by pressing on the button. It just kind of activates when you push on it. I found that helps me a little bit more when I'm doing vocal parts that require wah pedal too. So
it's definitely a lot to take in there too. But I've only been a drummer, so unfortunately, it's like if the pedal sounds good, the guitar is got it right. So yeah.
Well, I mean, I never knew what, like all my guitar player friends before I start playing and be like, you'll be chasing your tone forever. And I never knew what they meant until now, it's like, I can't ever find anything I'm super happy with. I'll tell you a good pedal that I didn't mind that I was using at first. And then for some reason I decided to get rid of it, but I recorded the whole One Love Polycrisis EP with it. It's the Big Muff, the same one that Billy Corgan uses on the Smashing Pumpkin albums. That's a good sounding pedal, man. It's heavy.
Does he use that throughout all of his albums, or is that more of what they call the old school Smashing Pumpkins, Billy Corgan, and I guess the pedal you just mentioned?
Yeah, the old school stuff. Yeah, definitely. So
I'd say, yeah. Those were albums, they were killer. So yeah.
Definitely.
I know you mentioned about Jerry Cantrell, and that's changed a good bit throughout the interview here, but did you kind of also find his replacement to be good? And I guess did you also kind of look up to him as an influence too?
You're talking about William for Lane? Yeah. So I love Lane. I catch a lot of slack from Alice Purist because, there's only one Alice, the one with Lane, right? Not to me, because Jerry is the mastermind, in my opinion. I loved Lane. I think his voice was powerful, and and him and Jerry together were probably the best vocal duo. I don't know. I dare say of all time, and it was definitely an awesome period of time for music when those two were putting stuff out. But it's no secret if you go listen to the later Alice albums or any of Jerry's solo stuff, who the mastermind behind Alice in Chains is, and where the sound comes from, and the darkness, and all that stuff. That signature sound is definitely comes from Jerry Cantrell's fingertips. So, and his voice too. So that haunting vocals. I mean, they didn't miss a beat, did they? Like William comes in, and those harmonies are still perfect. Perfect.
Yeah, I go to Lane Stanley there too. So
yeah, imagine what we would have got if he wouldn't have died.
They was still got strong. So yeah, I don't know if they would have done another Dirt sort of album there, to be honest. So
I mean, we're talking about like what they did with Lane. It was awesome, but it was also Alice in their rawest form, and then you kind of see when they get later on, when they get back together with William, and from the 3 albums they've done together there, everything, maybe the songs aren't as iconic and as great, but like the production and the tightness and how perfect they sound. I mean, like they really found their stride, you know what I'm saying? And if Lane would have been there for that could have been something else. And I think that it sucks that it really sucks that we couldn't hear him, but Jerry delivered, man. Like that first album in 2009, Coming Back, Black Gives Way to Blue. To me, that album is one of their best in their catalog. I mean, there's so many great songs on there. The other 2 are really good to me, but Black Gives Way Blue is definitely the signature album of the second era.
the newer Alice in Chains at that point, well, we could tell you. So yeah. All right.
Definitely. And then Jerry's solo albums, he did I Want Blood was his most recent one, and he is just his songwriting is just, it's incendiary. That's the word I want to use. So I wish that he wouldn't have to use those songs for solo songs. I wish he was able to use them for Alice, but that's the way life works out. So
I guess so. This one here could also delve into challenges here too, but I guess what sort of challenges do you feel like you're facing these days? I guess even being a part of all these groups right now is just finding the time.
Well, I mean, it's not so much of a challenge of being in the 3 bands because, Potter's Field is really not very active right now because, I'm so focused on Polycrisis. And as far as Destructor goes, that's just a studio project right now. That's not going to be doing any live shows. So a lot of my main focus goes into Polycrisis. I would say that the challenge of it is like the scene is totally different today than it was back in the day when we were trying to, get our name out there with Destructor and all that stuff. Polycrisis, we're operating in a time where, it's just nothing but social media. Nobody goes to shows anymore, man. It's hard, I mean, even some of these, bigger bands that are touring, their crowds aren't great, people just want to sit and watch their phone, so, you kind of got to come up with content, and someone that's long in the tooth like me, I could come up with content, but I just ain't got the energy to do it. It's like some of these great band out of Michigan, Fall to the People. I don't know if you've heard them, up and comers. Yeah, they're they're all over the place. They got all kinds of content and stuff, and I'm sitting here watching it. It's like I need to go out and do a video. No. I go and I practice guitar. You know what I'm saying? That's what I got time to do. It's hard in the new age world, but we're talking about doing more content and getting some stuff up for TikTok. We're talking about heavying up some covers and throwing them on TikTok to get some attention. things like that. We're trying to think outside the box, and that's the challenge, I think, of today's music, because there is no money in going out and playing live anymore, and there's no record deals really anymore. It's better to push yourself than to get signed, honestly. The way you got all the means any record company's got, you just need money. That's why people with money are the ones making it big. The trust fund musicians. I'm not trying to go anybody out, but
Yeah, you're lying either. But it's funny you mentioned all the people. I did interview them a couple weeks back. So
Yeah.
their interviews on my YouTube channel if you want to check it out.
Yeah, I'm not calling them. No, they're legit. I think they're doing it right, and I definitely definitely think that they're on their way. So they got that youthful energy. So, but no, I mean, I got plenty of energy, man. I just need to get us going with some more content, some online content and stuff. We're trying to play shows, and promoters are putting these shows together, and they're fun, and we get to meet people, but it just doesn't seem like people are going to shows anymore.
I know they talk about pay to play, that sort of stuff for like some of the venues, depending on like where it's at and what sort of city and how it varies between the states. I guess some of the shows you got lined up, are they sort of like that, or is it like more of if the people come, then we'll have a good night?
I mean, we have dabbled a little in the pay for play model, and it's not ideal. We're trying to sell. We're from St. Mary's, Ohio, and we're trying to sell 25 tickets to a show in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And the first few shows we did, we were able to do that. We actually were making money. We're like, damn, But then as it goes, and and everybody starts to, you become old news a little bit. Your ticket sales go down, and then it's just like you're paying out of pocket to play a show. And is it worth it? No. Some of these guys are asking for a ridiculous amount of money, and you're just trying to stay afloat so you can finance your next EP or finance your next music video. And with bands like Fold of the People putting out this great content, you got to spend some good money to keep up with bands like that. So can't be spending $750 to play a show, and try to sell 25 tickets. It is what it is, and it's a lot of pay for play people out there. But I'm gonna tell you what, there's some people out there trying to do it right, like Feast Fam Productions here out of Walpock, Kylie Shaner and Luke Shaner. They're some up and coming promoters, and they're looking to do it right. They're not trying to use the pay for play model. They're putting up some good shows like Feastival and Feast Your Heart Out, and getting some good bands like Exit Wounds and Fault of the People to play these shows, and they're trying to pay their bands, and we need more promoters like that. So, my hats are off to them. We've worked with them a few times, and they've been nothing but great to us, and we consider them family. So they're doing a great thing, and there's Larva Promotions in Dayton trying to do the same thing. It's just that getting people out to these shows, Feast Fam, they're doing a good job. We played their Feast Your Heart Out on Valentine's Day this past year, and they got a pretty big venue, pretty big stage, and it was a pretty good crowd that showed up. So I think they're doing it right, and definitely watch out for them. They're going to be doing some bigger shows. So
let me get a shout out right there too. So good to see there are some people doing some good work out there in the field.
Definitely. I want to, a lot of people want to criticize the pay for play people, which rightly so, but there are promoters out there trying to do it the right way. And, I just want to make sure that people know about them too. So, there ain't no Kevorkians of the world. I don't know if you've heard of that guy, but trying to rip you off. So, but
I haven't heard that, but probably a good thing too, since I used it as a bad metaphor in that case. So
yeah. So I mean, it's tough, but it was tough years ago being in the music business and doing that. But I just think that like so many people, like we would do a show in Springfield with Destrucore and Grit and all them, and that place, but those were the early 2000s, and those places would be packed like sardines, and there ain't nobody going to shows like that no more. I don't see it anymore. Even, the only time I see it is like, honestly, is, I live around this lake here and they have a lot of bars around this lake. And so they have bar bands playing covers and stuff and country bands and all that stuff. And they're not even playing any originals, and those bars are packed, they love that music, So what does that say about us? Our music sucks? No, I don't think so. I think that we all have something, all us original bands have something to offer. There's not really, any horrible bands out there. Everybody's got their own sound, something that they can offer, but people are just showing up their original music. They're like, I don't know this song, so who cares, but some Rascal Flats or something, they'll go crazy and get up on the tables and start dancing.
I doubt play Freebird too.
Yeah,
so that dare you to do that one. So
there's always that one guy, Freebird.
Yep, play Freebird.
Yeah,
so, it's kind of an insult too these days, considering how great of a song it is. Yeah,
the one guy yelling Slayer too.
I've not met that yet. It's always been the Freebird one. They even brought that up during a D-side concert too. Play Freebird. So, all right. So,
yeah.
Let's do one more question before we jump into some extra fun ones. But I know you mentioned about content earlier.
Yes.
I know I try to keep up with all of the people here too, but this one kind of delves into AI and social media. So I guess, what do you make of both of them these days? Kind of see a double-edged sword, or do you think a little too much or too invasive these days?
Yeah, I'm completely against AI. As far as using it in art, I mean, if you want to use it as a tool for like, on Google search or something like that, or to help you look up, who hit 15 home runs and whatever, just getting useless knowledge, whatever, fine. I don't give a shit. Use AI, but to use it for your flyers or for your album artwork or to make music with it, some of these AI bands that are all over the Apple Music and Spotify now, and it's like, no, I'm completely against it. And yeah, exactly. There's nothing we can do about it, I guess. It's here. It's going to stay. People are going to start using it, but I know the way I feel about it, and I'm gonna stick to my guns on it. So no AI for us, and what's funny is, and I'll make this clear right now, Polycrisis, the album artwork for Nobody Dooms Like We Doom is AI, but we were ignorant. And I will say this, we were looking for our album artwork and we were looking for an artist to pay and do the artwork. And Luke found that guy and he was like making him animated. And we were like, oh, that's so cool, and we had no clue it was AI and he wasn't really doing it. We didn't start getting clued off onto this until we had already gotten so far into the artwork. And we started thinking, well, why can't he make these specific changes that we want? Because he ain't really doing the art. He's typing a prompt, It was too late and we ended up using it, but I guarantee you we'll never use it again. So
I guess what social media do you use there too? I wasn't sure. Are you kind of a little bit against social media? Do you kind of see its uses here and there?
No, I think that, my opinion about social media is it can be bad, but it also can be good. Just like anything else, it has positives and negatives. But it is great to get your word out there about your music. You can reach so many more people in a matter of seconds than so many years ago. And it's great in that way, but at the same time, there's a lot of hate and a lot of politics on social media, and that's one thing I hate is politics. And that's the only time I use the word hate is I hate politics, but I don't really hate anything else. I'm about I've got like kind of that hippie spirit. I'm not like a leftist or a rightist or anything like that, but I feel like we need to be, excellent to each other and party on, dude. So
Well, would think so.
yeah, but yeah, there's so much hate on that on social media, people just going at each other because, they believe in this, and you're garbage if you don't believe in the same thing I believe in, and all that stuff. And it's like we all can have our own opinions and get along, and I think social media kind of brings out the worst in people in that way.
That's for sure. So I guess tread carefully with both things there too. Gotta watch out for the Terminator from the AI side, and I guess the bots.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Bots. So yeah.
We definitely don't want that stuff happening. Yeah. I'm definitely like using AI for weaponry and stuff like that is definitely something I'm not supporting that either. So leave it out, all that stuff. We wouldn't need weapons as it is, but don't put AI in it, because then, like you said, we have some Terminator shit here in years to come. They're gonna say you guys aren't fit to do this, so we're gonna take over everything.
So I get the feeling we would actually do a doomsday celebration about that too for some reason. So I don't know, it would be weird, but I don't know.
We could throw one hell of a concert, I can tell you that.
Get Pepper Keenan and Corrosion Conformity back on there too.
Yeah,
so.
might as well go out with a bang, right?
That's what people would like to do. So we'll make it happen if it comes to it. So all right, but otherwise, tread carefully out there, good soldier. So.
Yes.
All right, so Don, we briefed some questions here, so let's jump into some extra fun ones. Ready?
Right, definitely.
All right. So I guess outside of music, I guess do you do anything else in terms of hobbies or any fun stuff?
Yes, I'm an avid runner. I run probably 3 miles a day. That's because I was doing martial arts for a while, and I was sparring, and I was like, oh my God, I got to get in shape. So I started running, and then I just realized that I love to run. So I actually don't do martial arts anymore, but I still run. I've been running 10, 11 years now, and 500-600 miles a year, probably, sometimes more. Just depends on if it's a good year or not. But I love to run. That's definitely one of my hobbies. I don't know. I mean, I'm somewhat of a movie buff, TV show buff. I love actors and stuff like that. I probably would have pursued acting if I wouldn't have pursued music. I actually did. I directed and filmed and starred in a short film called Nomad. It's on YouTube. It's a comedy. But that was for fun. So yeah, I just like to be creative. I think that's probably my biggest thing, is just like, if I can get in my hands in there and get dirty and be creative, anything artistic, so that's probably my hobby besides running. I love sports. I'm a huge Bears fan, by the way. Chicago Bears.
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 Yep. I was going to say, who you run away from? Is it meant to be run away from the wife if it comes to that point?
No. Me and my wife get along great. She's awesome. Her name's Amber Potter. I call her Lily. She's my soulmate, my muse. So, yeah. She's a very supportive wife, and she does a great job of encouraging me and keeping me motivated, you know, even when times are tough and you're like, God dang it, you know, maybe I don't want to do this no more. No, I've never had that cross my mind, but I've definitely had frustrating days, and she's always there to see me through them. So
Good woman. I was making a joke, so.
oh, no, you're good. You're good.
All right, good choices. Since you mentioned about film and TV and that sort of stuff, first off, what's Nomad about? And I guess, do you have a favorite movie and TV show?
Yes, my favorite movie is Dazed and Confused. And my favorite TV show is probably Dexter. But it gets more complicated than that for me, man. So, you know, I separate my TV shows. Like, you know, that's my favorite drama hour show, but I like sitcoms too. And, you know, I'm a huge King of Queens fan, and I love Kevin James. He's a big one for me. Pauly Shore, big one for me. Ed Norton. So Christian Slater. There you go.
Actually, how did the whole thing with Nomad come about? Was it one of those things they had a flyer up? And it's like, come join if you want to be a part of this little mini YouTube video we were trying to put together?
No, I mean, it was just a bunch of friends that wanted to help me out and have some fun, you know, and, you know, when none of us were actors. So, you know, you can tell that when you watch the movie, but it definitely turned out great. It was fun. It's just a short, and it's funnier than hell, man. It is extremely funny. We even, like, when we were done making it and I was done editing, because I edited it all myself and everything, and I was like, okay, it's ready to go. We're going to do a premiere night. So we got everybody together, had this huge party. Everybody's drinking. We all decided to kind of like dress up a little bit like the red carpet, you know, and we premiered the movie and all of us watched it. And then after it was over, I kind of like gave everybody like awards for, like, just made up some bullshit awards like the Oscar, you know, and everybody in the movie won something. So, you know, it was just kind of fun thing to do. You know, we're always trying to be creative, like I said.
Nonetheless, good job there, boys. So, all right. Not too sure if you do drink, but if you do you have a favorite alcoholic drink? And then what's your favorite non-alcoholic drink?
I am a Mick Ultra guy. I do not drink a lot. I'm more of I partake in the herb more than anything. I do drink, but more in social environments, or if it's like during a football game or something, you know. My favorite non-alcoholic drink, and this might surprise you, is milk. I love milk. It's like nature's nectar, dude. If I'm dehydrated, I can sit there and chug a gallon of milk right out of the refrigerator like it ain't nothing. So that's definitely my favorite.
Yeah, that comes with the bowl of cereal with the Oreos too. So
it's such a, yeah, Oreos definitely. Such a double-edged sword too, because you know, milk creates a lot of mucus, and I'm a singer, so, you know, it's like I gotta watch it. Like, if like I deem a big show's coming up, I'll be like, okay, I gotta stay off the milk. Or if we're going into the studio, I'll be like, a week before we go in, I'm like, no milk. You know. So
probably good thinking. So
yeah.
All right. All great choices. And for the last fun questions, who have you been listening to recently in terms of independent or mainstream artists?
I've been listening to, to the new Charisma Conformity album that came out this year. If you want to name some semi-mainstream stuff there. I've been on Liquid Metal, Ladrones. Have you heard them yet?
You know, I used to have Liquid Metal, and unfortunately, I have to renew my subscription to get that channel back there too.
I've only heard a couple songs from them, but they're crazy. They're a Mexican metal band. It's like mariachi style, you know. It's awesome. I usually don't like the newer metal, you know, like it's so bassy and so muddy. But these guys, like they're definitely unique. I wouldn't say that I'm listening to them, but they've definitely caught my ear, and I've heard a couple songs from them on Liquid Metal. But as far as like local bands go, I'm gonna tell you about a couple like Rockstead from Cincinnati. They're not really a metal band; they're like a reggae hard rock band. I really like them. And Trauma, Illinois is also from Cincinnati. They're kind of like I don't know, they're like an alternative, but they got like a bluesy classic rock vibe to them too, you know, but like more like alt rock lately. Some of their releases they've been going more alt rock, but like when I fell in love with them, I saw them. Me and my wife saw them on Hippie Fest down in Hockey Hills, and they were playing, and they were all hippied up, you know. And I mean, I dug their whole vibe, and they were playing stuff like hard driven blues rock, you know. And I was just like, that was cool as hell. And then I still love them as much as I did back then, but they've definitely changed a little bit, where they still have that blues rock vibe, but it's more got like an alt rock type vibe to it too. So I still like, but I'll give those two bands a shout out, and everybody needs to go check out Rockstead too, because like they're amazing. They're an amazing band, and they tour up and down I mean, they're from Cincinnati, but they go all the way down to like Florida and play, because they're like reggae rock and stuff, and they fit in and all that stuff all the way down to the Keys, you know, making all kinds of money. So
They can get away with it. So
yeah, but yeah, that I would say that as far as new stuff's concerned, like if it's new, it's an older band putting new stuff out that I'm listening to. And like I said, that new Corrosion of Conformity album that came out earlier this year, super good. Like my favorite COC album of all time is American Volume Dealer. I don't know if you know that one. That album is amazing. This album's probably their best album since then, to me, anyways, in my opinion. I'm sure some people would disagree with me. You know, everybody's got their own opinions, but absolutely, man. I think it's Bad Man, Good God, Bad Man's the name of the album. So just picked that shit up on vinyl too. Pretty good.
which one had Heal My Wounds on it? That's the one I kind of heard the most from. Corrosion and Conformity.
Yeah, Deliverance. Okay. It's got Albatross on it too.
That one too.
Yeah, that was like the motocross theme song for forever. That's a great album, but there's also maybe I'm getting, it's the one that's got King of the Rotten on it and Redemption City. Man, that album is just, that one's really good too. They don't put bad albums out, man, but they
do a good job.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And playing with them and then seeing them when they played, they actually played their set. It was every bit as good as listening to them on an album. They were just so super tight and super good, and they knew that they put on a good show. Yeah. Down's, I don't know, Down might be the best show I've ever seen though, because I seen Down open up for Black Label Society at Pierre's, and Down blew Zach Wild off the fucking stage. Let me tell you, they were so tight and so good. I mean, Zach was fast and he played that guitar like you wouldn't believe. But as far as just like how tight the band was and how good they sounded, like Down was just ridiculous. They were so good. So that was back in 2016, I believe. In
that case, it's definitely making this moment come up in August. It's going to be all more worth it. So
I ended up getting the VIP package to go meet them and see the sound check and everything. So paid extra. It's worth it.
That's good. That's totally worth it. So. All right. I will also give a shout out to Clock Towers. They're also out of the Cincy area, and I'm sure I missed some people because I can't remember everybody who was at the podcast out of the Cincy region there too. But we'll give a shout out there too. So
Awesome. I appreciate you having me on.
I do have one more question actually, but I guess before we jump into it, would you like to ask me anything real quick?
Yeah, I mean, so how long you been doing your podcast and how do you like, is it just a YouTube thing, or, I mean, like, how'd you come upon me? That's one thing I was always curious about.
Well, to answer the first question, it started back in 2021. It was during COVID, kind of at least helped me push in that direction to kind of take up something after work. So it started off as a nice hobby, and then it kept growing and growing, and that whole deal. So at the moment, it is strictly YouTube, but I hope it becomes a business at some point. So be a nice little side hustle. So
Oh, that's awesome, man. I mean, you definitely made me feel comfortable and asked some good questions, and I appreciate you having me on for sure.
no worries. And how I stumbled upon you, I'd say you did a good amount of praying on Facebook right there too. So I think I don't know if it was a post or whether it was one of those recommended friends or something they wanted you to check out after you like followed somebody.
Right.
So it might have been one of those right there too. And I think I just decided to stumble upon your page and check it out. And it's like, yeah, it's 50-50 if he wants to come on or not.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm always, like I said, trying to create more content and stuff like that, and being on podcasts and stuff like that, is something that I would like to try to do, more. And it was definitely cool that you come and knocking, and it was definitely fun. So
no worries. Was there anything else, or is it okay we jump into the last question?
yeah, I mean, you said you're from Pennsylvania?
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Yep.
That's cool though, see the internet and all that stuff, social media, if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have found each other, right? So it's cool. And it's always definitely fun to find another fan of music and somebody that, is trying to create content and put, their career and get their career going. And I definitely commend you for that. That's awesome. We talked about doing a podcast one time, but it's definitely a lot that goes into that stuff. So
Gotta find a time. That's what you gotta do there too. That's the main thing. So
yeah. Time is the main thing for anything, right?
That's something we don't have a whole lot of, unfortunately. So hey. Was there anything else? Just want to make sure.
No.
Okay. In that case, here's how I'll phrase the last question. So now you kind of talked about the news, social media having a good amount of politicalization, that sort of stuff on there too. These days, you do see a whole lot of negative stuff kind of going on in the world. So these days, I feel like people need some sort of hope. So what would be your message of hope for musicians and people out there so they can move forward with their lives?
I mean, it looks bleak right now. Everybody thinks that, but I think that, and I don't know if this is necessarily a message of hope, but it's definitely, maybe something that'll help you relax a little bit, in these times, in the times of, mental health, and everybody's all about mental health and all that stuff, right? A lot of stuff going on, trying to keep your head on right and everything. But the world's always been like this, what's that song Billy Joel's got? And I honestly, lately, I've not had a good relationship with Billy Joel, but I'm going to bring him up. We didn't start the fire, right? The world's been burning since the world's been turning. But with all the media now and the social media, and you got how many fucking channels here, and, and all these streaming services and Twitter and, X or whatever you want to call it. There's just so much information out there that, when something happens, you're going to find out about it 2 seconds later. Back in the day, all this stuff was probably happening. You just weren't hearing about it, because it wasn't all over everything. It's just everywhere. It's in your face. It's too much of it, and I just think that you've had threats of big wars in the past and they haven't happened. Cooler heads prevail eventually, I think. There's always going to be wars. You're never going to change that. Never. 100, 200 years from now, there's going to be wars. I think it's more about money than it is destroying everybody. It's like people ask me, talk about like nuclear war and stuff like that, and I'm like, oh, it's not profitable. Putin's not going to make no money if he destroys the world, right? He wants to be rich with all his oligarchs and all that stuff, right? I just think that powerful men can't be in power if there is nothing to be in power of. So, and like I said, there's just so much social media and ways to consume the news that, like I said, it's seconds and you'll know about it. Back when I was younger, you read the newspaper. They had cable, but it's just they had it wasn't easily accessible. So I just feel like just relax. It's the same shit that's been going on since the beginning of time. We'll get through it. We always do.
Somehow.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But spoke like a true prodigy.
Yeah. I'm telling you, it's been a dumpster fire for thousands and thousands of years. So,
eventually someone's going to have to put the fire out at some point. So, yeah.
Somebody
it'll be nice.
Just put some suntan lotion on it and fucking don't get sunburn.
I guess not. So, but nonetheless, Don, thank you so much for sharing there, mate. Does really mean a lot.
I appreciate it. Sometimes, my mind works faster than my words. So, but getting my point across, I
can definitely say you did that. So it's all good. All right.
Awesome.
So we have reached the end of my podcast here, Don. We talked a little over, going to be an hour and 30-some minutes. But I guess before we close out, would you like to give any shout outs to anybody?
Just shout out to my bandmates, Luke Schaefer and Brad Anderson, the best bass and drummer out there. Got a lot of shit we need to tear up, and we're gonna keep going and keep on keeping on. And I want to shout out to my wife, Lily. I mentioned earlier. She's my muse, my everything. Shout out to my two kids, Andrew and Elena, and all my friends and family. And all the promoters and original bands out there trying to do it, and all the podcasters that are trying to make their own, So
we try.
Yep. And you said you play drums. You have a band then?
It's more studio bands, to be honest. At the moment, it's Demiurge, and then there's Nocturnal Monarch. I did need to finally get my one song done because I keep putting on the back burner doing drum covers and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, hell yeah.
So, yeah.
Definitely. Well, I'm definitely going to go check out more of your content, and I appreciate it once again for having me on.
No worries. And lastly, for the audience, what social media and streaming platforms are you on so people can check out your music and interact?
Definitely. You can check out Polycrisis and Destrucore on Facebook. Potter's Field's on Facebook too. As far as streaming services go, Spotify and Apple, everything, Polycrisis's first couple EPs and the songs we're getting ready to release too. And then I'm going to end up putting Destrucore up there on the streaming media too when we release this new album. So that'll be up there. But Polycrisis is everywhere, TikTok, Bandcamp. So, I mean, if it's a social media site, we're probably on it. So, but Facebook is probably our headquarters. You want to find out all the latest news and all that stuff. That would be the place to go. But definitely on all the streaming services like Spotify and Apple Music and Pandora and all that good stuff.
All right, sounds good. Just have to close it like this real quick. So, everyone, my guest today was Don Potter, hailing from Ohio right there. He's part of 3 groups, but you can check out Polycrisis, which is the main one currently right now. He's got Gesture Core, going to be coming out with a new album here pretty soon. And Potter's Field, kind of on the back burner right now, but you can also check that out as well.
Absolutely.
So he's also a vocalist, guitarist. So hit up all his socials, all streaming platforms and everything there too. Let's go help our brother out there as well. So, all right, Don, you do stay safe because you know there's one pretty fucked up world out there.
Yes.
Rock God.
Yeah.
But lastly, for the audience, strike a pose. Stay tuned, y'all.